Hello and thank you for watching. This is Jennifer Bowman with Olympia Piano, and this is video number 2 for the piano cadences 1, 4, 1, 5, 5, 7, 1. And the difference between this video and the first video is that the first video, the cadence started in root position. And in this video, I'm going to show you another version of this cadence starting in first inversion. Please know that the moving notes will move the exact same way. They're just going to be at a different spot. So whereas the first version, the top of the hand moved up and C stayed the same, now C is going to be on the top and then the bottom notes will move up, but they'll move up in the same way. A viewer had a really great question about cadences and chord progressions. And I'm sorry I didn't do that in the first video. A cadence is a chord progression, but every chord progression is not a cadence. A cadence is a specific type of chord progression that occurs at the end of a phrase, end of the section, end of the piece. There's some sense of finishing up with a cadence. There's a few different types of cadences. In this video, we're talking about one that goes back to the one chord, sense of finality. I hope that clears that up just a little bit. As we did before, this video will be an example. It will be in the key of C major, so using the notes of the C major scale. So all of the chords will come from this scale, the one chord, C, E, G. The 4 chord is F, F, A, C, and the 5 chord, G, G, B, D. 5, 7 chord, what we do to create the 5, 7 chord is add another third on top. Happens to be a minor third, and that's called the dominant 7 chord. So all of these chords come from this C scale. So let's get started with finding our 1 chord, moving to our 4 chord for the cadence. So let's start with first inversion. We know our 1 chord is C. First inversion, the C is on the top. So what we're trying to do is have the 4 chord be as close as possible to this. C is the shared note, and our 4 chord is F major. So you can see right away that's the 4 chord we're going to use. We're going to use first inversion 1, root position 4. So in terms of moving, it's going to move exactly the same way. E to F or Mi to Fa moves a half step. So the bottom note is going to move up a half step. The middle note, G to A or So to La, will move up a whole step for this one. Half on bottom, whole in the middle, and then back down. So now we have our 1 chord and our 5 chord. You can see right here, the 5 chord and the 1 chord share a G. So in this inversion, first inversion, the G is the middle note. So now we've got to find the G chord that has G as the middle note. So root position G, G's on the bottom. First inversion G, G's on the top. And finally, second inversion, G's in the middle. So that's what we're going to use for this. And this will be a little more tricky because there's some finger switching involved, but that's okay. Let's look at how the voices move. The bottom note is going to move down, Mi to Re, E to D, that's a whole step on the bottom. And the top, C to B, Do to T, is a half step. Whole step on the bottom, half step on the top. So now we'll add the 7th. As I mentioned in the first video, the dominant 7 has 3 inversions. The root position has the 7th on the outside. When you invert this, it becomes a 2nd. So it's pretty easy to add the 7th note for that chord by just adding a whole step underneath the name of the chord. So in this case, it's a G chord. I'm going to add the 7th whole step under. Hopefully that makes sense. So we've moved here, and then we're going to add that 7th. And then move back. So whole step moves up here. We get rid of the 7th, and this moves up a half step. So those are the new inversions of the cadence. So now let me go through the fingering. Because we start in first inversion, there's a little more jumping around. So I'm going to show you the fingering that seems to work best, but this is not the only fingering, okay? Also, I'm going to show you two versions. One version is going to have all 4 notes in the 5/7 chord, and the other version is going to leave out that D and just have a 3-note 5/7 chord. So version 1, right hand, we're going to start first inversion, E, G, C. C is our shared note between the 1 and the 4. In this one, we're going to start with fingers 1, 2, 5. For this one, the thumb's going to move up a half step, and then in the middle, we're going to switch fingers to finger 3, moving that inner note up a whole step. Then we go back down, playing finger 2, moving the thumb back down a half step to 1. We're going to keep that G in the middle, and because we're going to be adding the 7th chord, we're going to switch that G to finger 3, and then the thumb will move down a whole step. The pinky will move down a half step for the 5 chord. Then we're going to add that second whole step for the 5/7, and then move the whole hand back up. Get rid of the 3rd finger to the C chord. Let me do that quickly. Okay, now the second version is going to have slightly different fingering for the second half because we're only doing a 3-note 5/7 chord. So it will start the same, 5, 2, 1, scoot the thumb up, 5, 3, 1, back down, 5, 2, 1. Now here, we are just going to keep the 2 on the G, switch the top finger to 4, down a half step, bottom finger down a whole step. Then keeping the 4, 2, the thumb is going to come up and make the 7th chord, whole step lower than G. And then again, keep 2 on G, and then switch fingers on top, 4 to 5, thumb scoots down. Let me do that one quickly. 1, up to 4, back down, outsides move, 2 stays where it is, thumb hops up, 2 stays where it is, open out. Left hand, version 1, we have first inversion starting 5, 3, 1. And now we're just going to switch fingers for the 4 chord, 2 and 4 exactly where they are. So you're going to play finger 4, which is a half step higher, and finger 2, which is a whole step higher. Then switch back to 1, 3, 5. Now here, because of this full 7th chord, we're going to switch second finger to G. Pinky's going to move down, finger 5 moves down a whole step, thumb moves down a half step. Then we're going to add finger 3 a whole step lower than the name of the chord, the G chord. And then get rid of finger 2 and move that up. Let me do that again. Switch fingers, move the whole hand, add finger 3, move the whole hand. Now for the 3-note 5/7 chord, we're going to start the same way, just switching fingers. Now we're going to also switch to finger 2 here, moving the outsides, then just add finger 3, and then you can scoot up back to the 1 chord. So let me do that hands together both ways slowly. 1, 3, 5. Right hand thumb moves up, left hand switches fingers. Going back to 1, right hand thumb goes down, left hand switches fingers to 1, 3, 5. Now both hands move down to that second inversion 5 chord, kind of new fingering, adding the 7th whole step underneath the middle note, and then leaving out finger 2 in the left hand, leaving out finger 3 in the right hand, back up to 1, first inversion. Now here's the 3-note 7 chord. Starts the same way, left hand switch fingers, right hand thumb moves up and switches to finger 3. Switching back, switch the fingers, scoot the thumb. Now here, the left hand is going to move entirely. The right hand's just going to switch the outside notes. Now let's add that 7th. So the bottom note is going to move up to a whole step below the middle note. And then resolving back, right hand just switches fingers and scoots the thumb, left hand moves up. So that is 1-4-1-5-5-7-1 cadences in the key of C major, starting on first inversion. I showed you 2 ways, one with 4 notes for the 7th chord and one with 3 notes for the 7th chord. I will post a separate video, not YouTube short this time, just a separate video with this in every single key. So you can find the key that you need. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you. If it did, please subscribe, share, or even donate to my channel. Thank you to those donations I received recently. I really appreciate them. And if you've watched my channel before, you know I love to know where you're from. So please leave that for me in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching.